So let me continue. I'm going to try to make the best out of it. I'm sorry for any technical delays, but we're just going to make the best out of it. Short introduction about me. So I founded a top 10 global growth hacking agency, worked with a lot of big brands to make money, and also worked with a lot of cool companies, mainly startups and scale-ups, to do the cool stuff. Didn't make less money, but it was way more fun to work with. And what I'm now doing is really helping you to focus, to find that one thing that you can do to monetize what you're doing. So let's start today. First thing that you can do is send me a DM on LinkedIn. Connect with me over there, because I love to make a connection with everybody that I speak to. So feel free to do that, even also if you have to leave early. So the key question when I'm talking about growth hacking is, of course, what's a hack? I've always said that there's one word missing within growth hacking, and that it should be called growth system hacking. And why growth system hacking? You should build a growth system, a step-by-step process on how you're going to grow. Because what's actually the hack? It's finding the weak spot in a system and then exploiting that weakness to exploit your goal. Because this is something I'm really good at, to really quickly see what is the minor change that we can make to really increase our revenue. And especially in an e-commerce context, this is fascinating. And there are really surprising ways with small things you can tweak to make sure that you make more money. And as we are at the beginning of the presentation, I also want to make sure that we have the entire philosophy already in one sheet. And that is that growth hacking is high tempo experimentation across the entire customer journey. And this is what I think is really important, is that you start to understand your growth formula and really structure your growth effort. So you understand why you're growing and where you need to double down on to make sure that you can make more money, because you want to find the biggest lever possible to monetize your biggest growth opportunity. Because what I believe is that there are a lot of people that talk about growth, but as you saw the talks we had before, you also want to make money, you want to make revenue. And that's where I want to help people with. Are you guys still seeing my slides?
Yes, we are.
It's amazing what one checkbox can do with your Thursday afternoon. So what it's really important is that you think across the entire customer journey. So what you want to know with this model, which is the pirate metrics, is you want to understand how are people coming to our site. So awareness, what do we do to make them buy for the first time? How can we actually activate them? But also, and that's a very important part within e-commerce, which a lot of companies are forgetting, is how are we making sure that people actually come back to us? Because you have different researches which say that it's like 7 to 25 times cheaper to sell to an existing customer compared to acquiring a new customer. So I'm really a big fan of that. And also focusing on monetization and also enabling your happy customers to refer other customers to you, because that's an even lower cost of acquisition that you have. And what I'm a really big believer of is that success leaves clues. So you want to reverse engineer what works and then double down on that. So what the growth hacking system that I always try to follow is to help people set one metric that matters. So in an e-commerce situation, it could be, let's make €1 million next year, or grow the business from 200K to 400K. These very simple things. And what you then start with is analyzing what's working and what's not working. Based on that, you generate ideas. So all kinds of creative ways to grow your business. You prioritize them, and then you are shipping experiments. You're testing. And this is the entire philosophy, because what we really believe is the more you experiment and the more you test, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the better you understand your growth system, and you better understand where you make money. Because this is really the most important thing. How can we enable e-commerce companies to drive more revenue? So with my previous growth hacking agency that I sold last year, I've built a model which is called the 7 pillars of growth hacking, where we really break down all the elements that are necessary to do this. And I think Ken and Niall had a very extensive workshop on that a couple of years ago in Dublin. And what I want to do today with you is take some elements out of that, which I think are really applicable for e-commerce businesses, that if you have those in order, then it will actually become easier to make money and also to implement the things that Muriel shared in her previous presentation. And the first thing that I want to share with you guys is how important it is to listen to your market. Because the most important reason that startups fail is no market need. So we're trying to sell to somebody who doesn't have that need. So we're trying to make somebody better, sell them a medicine when they're not feeling sick. So I always start with the customer. Where is their pain? And what's a really great model to use is what I call a customer desire map. So we want to have the voice of customer, where we see, okay, what does the customer want to achieve? So what are their dreams? What are their nightmares? And what do they see as obstacles from their nightmares to their dreams? And I see in my experience that a lot of e-commerce businesses don't have this in place. So talk to your customers and try to understand this. Because yes, you're selling your products, but your products are a way for your customers to improve their life. And if you understand what they really want and what they want to move away from, that's a really good indication on how you need to trigger them to sell them more and also to run better ads. Because if you have that in place, you know what your customers want, then you can create product market fit. Because this is also a reason why a lot of companies don't scale, is because they're not having a good fit with their market. So a tangible, actionable thing that you can do right now is ask and survey your current customers how disappointed they would be if you wouldn't be around anymore. And would more than 40% say, I would be very disappointed? Or would they say slightly disappointed or not disappointed, or I will never use your service or product anymore? What we want to try to understand with this question is that we send it out, we get a percentage, and we also want to understand the qualitative aspect on why are people saying this. Because if you understand why people are not very disappointed, but slightly disappointed, you know what you need to change in your product experience to make sure that it actually fits better, it sticks better, and they actually want to come back. Because what's the definition of product over here? Is the service or product that you deliver, including all the touch points over its entire lifetime. And I think within e-commerce, you have a lot of great examples where you can add a lot of value during touch points, like customer service, like onboarding, like having that first experience. But also when you're introducing a new product, that's a perfect example for you where you can really make them happy again, show them who you are, and really create that fit. Because what you want to understand is you want to understand that aha moment. So once somebody is buying from your e-commerce shop, what are moments that are really triggering them? That they're like, wow, this is a great shop and I want to come back. But also, what are the moments of frictions? What are the moments when they're like, I really hate this experience and I will never come back to them? Because you want to understand the road to addiction to your e-commerce store. For example, Facebook knows that if you have 7 friends within 10 days, you'll keep coming back. As Twitter knows that if you follow more than 30 people, you will come back. Slack knows that if a team has sent more than 2,000 messages to each other, that a team will come back, that they will buy. So in their upsell strategy, they won't try to upsell you once a team has sent 1,500 messages, but probably around the point when they have sent more than 2,000 messages. So do you also understand this for your e-commerce store? After how many transactions is somebody addicted to your store? Do we know that they will become a loyal customer? Or do we need to take them to a certain point to make sure that after that point, we have a loyal customer? Because what you want to do is you want to get traction and you want to get new customers in. A great book that I've used a lot for that is called the book Traction. It talks about 19 traction channels. And what I want to show with you guys is how we used this book, this frameworks, and a framework that I created, which are called channel stacking, to really make sure that you can grow really quickly, but also how we filled a workshop in Dublin a couple of years ago. So what you see over here are 4 pictures. So we had Facebook ads running based on things that people said during their customer desire map. We had people send this to content pages. And even if you're an e-commerce shop, like your product page can also be a content page. Really make sure that you have a blog where you talk about the hopes and dreams of people. Because what you can do over there, you can have a sign up or an opt-in bar where you want to get people's email addresses. What we used was a daily autoresponder. And it sounds like a crazy number, but if you would sign up for the next 500 days, you would get an email from us every day of the week, excluding weekends, 500 emails. And in almost every e-commerce shop that I've seen, you're not sending enough emails. And I know there's a lot to say about it. It can be intrusive, it can be spammy, but what's really important is that you send emails that are relevant to your audience. And how do you do that? You do that based on the product market fit survey, but also based on the customer desire map. Because if you can do that, then you will see that email is the cheapest channel that you can get to grow your business. What we wanted to do a couple of years ago when we were trying to sell a growth hacking workshop in Dublin is that we used a LinkedIn automation stack. So what we do, we use a tool called Linked Helper, where we collected, selected, and invited second-degree connections of ours in Dublin. What we did after we had a connection with people is we used a tool called Q, which is a content creation platform, where every day we were sending the best articles that were upvoted by marketeers to our social streams, so to LinkedIn. This was all automatically done with a tool called Buffer, which was automatically scheduling 2 messages per day. So we had the content creation platform where marketeers were upvoting the best articles, automatically being sent to our LinkedIn timeline, where if people would click on an article, they would be sent to a page, which is a tool called Sniply, where that page would be loaded in. And on that page, we would have a banner, which is really nice. And that banner was a link to our workshop. So we were basically using somebody else's page, loading them into the platform, and based on that, trying to engage with people. If people clicked on it, they would land on a landing page. And what we tried to do over here was to sell them a spot to that workshop. So what I'm trying to do over here is show you how you can combine different channels. And what I really liked about the previous presentation is that it really shows you how to set up Facebook and Instagram and these type of channels to acquire more customers. But what you want to do is you want to combine these channels by making sure that there are no dead ends, that you have an evergreen always on layer, and that you keep testing on how you can combine those channels to work together. So for example, what you need to do is you need to get their attention somewhere. You can do it on Facebook or Instagram. Then you want to get their contact details so you can direct message them and increase the amount of platforms that give you access. So in this case, it could be running a Facebook ad to get people on your email list and send them automatically emails, but also connect with them on LinkedIn, because you want to connect with them on multiple platforms. Because the more platforms you are connected with them, the more they'll see your brand and your exposure. But there's also an advanced way on how to do this. And it all comes down to figuring out the places where your customers are congregating, where your competitors are not. And then try to get them onto platforms where your competitors are also not on. And also where there's not like banner blindness. And what do I mean with that? When the internet started, if you would see a banner, 10% would click on that banner. Today, that will not happen anymore. But if there's a new platform coming up, people are still open for banners and for direct messages, because that's something you, for example, see with Facebook Messenger and also with WhatsApp. People can't stand that red dot with one unread message, so they are opening it. And what I'm doing is I'm helping a lot of clients to set up these type of stacks, because, for example, if you use Quora, which is a forum, you can get returns which are up to 40 times higher compared to Google. It depends per segment and per audience. But if you then get somebody from Quora, connect them on Facebook Messenger, and then also make sure that you can send them direct messages, like these are combinations that will give you a return, which is not possible with Google and other platforms. So what I want to challenge everybody on over here is, do you understand your growth formula? So do you understand what you have under full control? But also, are you monetizing closest to the money? Because there's a very important saying, the money is in the follow-up. And I know I'm going fast and there's a lot of stuff, so I hope that there are a lot of questions. I would love to answer them. But if there's one thing you need to take away, a very simple action step, follow up more with people. Because I've examples where after 5 or 7 emails or 8 follow-ups, we would get that order. So I think that really works. And really understanding who are your best clients that are actually making your money, but also do you understand from a qualitative and a quantitative perspective, so your Google Analytics, for example, but also from surveys and interviews, what's working really well, but also do you know the bottlenecks of your business? So do you know on each drop-off point how much money you're losing? Because you want to understand the impact you can make by making a quick change and see if you can get a return over there. What I see with a lot of businesses is that they don't speak enough with their customers, so they don't understand why they buy. But also in a lot of journeys, there are dead ends. So what do I mean with a dead end? Somebody made a purchase, and after that, what do you want them to do? Share on social, share a review, like always give customers a next step. And what is really nice is that I always try to work based on typologies. So what's the best type of client? Buying in which type of client? How fast are they doing that? Where you make the most profit? And then combining those stacks to see if we double down over there, that we can actually make more money with that. And really understand growth from multiple dimensions and really understanding what are the drivers of success. So this is something that I've been working on for years, but what I wanted to do is take this to a next level. I think this is also a very known book, probably also in Ireland, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. More than 20 million copies were sold, but also after this book, there came an 8th habit because you want to go from effectiveness to greatness, to try to become even better. Because what did I saw is that only a very small amount of actions actually made the biggest impact in my business. So what do I want to do? I want to find the growth lever within your business. So what's the 1% of action that will actually generate more than 50% of your extra revenue? You want to find those growth levers. And together with my wife, who's also in marketing, we've created a cheat sheet where we define how do you find your growth lever, what can you do, and we're also describing them. You can go to this URL to download it. Probably Ken and I will also share it with you. And I will walk you quickly through it because this is a very important one, the Dream 100. Do you know where your customer is online? Because you want to go to those places. So what can you do? Survey your best customers and figure out these things. Where are they hanging out online? Because you want to get them from that place to your infrastructure so you can sell to them. And as I said, in the cheat sheet, it's way more extensively explained with action steps. The second one is you want to is using a value ladder by strategically moving people through your offerings. So if somebody buys a cheap product from you, how can you make sure that they become a repeat buyer and actually buy more and more products from you? And another action step that I want you to take is to figure out what's the Trojan horse of your business. What's the first product that you can sell, which is so good, which over delivers on value, that because of that, trust is higher and people will come back and come back and come back. Because what you want to understand is you want to understand your front end and back end revenue. So what's the money you're making on day one, so on your first order, and actually how much more revenue can you make on a user in the following time cycles? And I've used this strategy, and I have cases where we would increase the amount of money we could make on a customer within 60 days with 700%, just by strategically moving these things into a right order. And what I really liked about the previous conversation, the interview that Niall did with Ruth, is a concept which I call the revenue stress test. Asking yourself proactively, what would break if you would increase your customers with 10x? So you have 10x the amount of customers. Do you know which processes are scalable enough? And do you also know what are your bottlenecks? Because by proactively removing them and thinking ahead, what would happen if we would scale and already fixing that, that actually is going to make growth way easier. So I always try to make things very actionable and give you really specific action steps. Step one, you need to be very clear on your growth goals. So how much money do we want to make? How much revenue? How much EBITDA? How much customers? These type of things. You want to define the growth lever. So what's that one change that we can make that would have a disproportionate impact? Really get clear on what the bottlenecks are in your business and increase the tempo of your experiments so you start to understand your growth formula. Because at the end, you want to understand the first step that you need to do to monetize your biggest business opportunity. I'm actually writing a book about this, which is called Structuring for Extreme Revenue Growth, How to Monetize Your Biggest Business Opportunity. And I would love to interview people around that because I have a framework. It can be used in a lot of cases, but I would also like to hear from you guys. So if you have, send me an invite on LinkedIn and you would like to be interviewed and featured in that book, also send me a DM because I would love to hear from people from all kinds of countries. I hope this is helpful. If there are any questions, feel free to reach out over here. And I didn't have a chance to look at the Q&A, so maybe Ken or Niall have done that and can maybe select one or few of the questions that are there, because I also don't know how long we still have. So I think if you could moderate that and share some of the questions, that would be great.
Chris, you were bang on time, so thank you very much. That was really, really good. Ken's just going to read out a couple of questions. If anybody has any extra questions, just write them in the chat, and we will, Ken will ask them. We'll also send on those links and follow up with everybody. So Kenny, any questions?
Well, one was just what content tool you were using at the start when you were sending out the emails to people for the seminar in Dublin the last time. I think you said it was Q, was it? Yeah,
Q was a content creation platform. So marketeers could upvote articles over there over the entire internet. And then those 2 articles that had the most upvotes were automatically sent to the LinkedIn timelines of people. Then they would appear. And because the algorithm was showing articles that audience probably liked, like we could get more in front of them. And based on those interactions, we could also upsell them.
Other kind of questions were like, what was the most common drop-off points that you saw for online shopping?
The most common, so I think in e-commerce, it's always like people fill it, like they fill their basket, but they're not completing the transaction. So I see in a lot of instances, different scenarios where people are actually raising their hand, like I'm interested in this product. So I've identified myself, and then companies are not aggressive enough or not helpful enough to help people that would be a fit to complete that transaction. So it's what I always ask, like, what's the optimization we can make that's closest to the money? That if we would make an optimization over there, then we would definitely see that in our top line and in our bottom line.
Do you have any tips for the B2B channel?
I think right now, LinkedIn is still a very good channel to explore. I think Niall said it before this call that he was seeing my profile on his timeline again and again and again. And there's a reason for that, because if you show yourself over there, it really brings a lot of value to potential customers. And it's still relatively cheap to do that, especially when you're doing the organic stuff.
Do you see businesses needing to change their online approach over the next 5 years? And if so, what changes?
I think the biggest change is that there will be a flight to quality. And what do I mean with that? Is that it becomes relatively easier to dropship. Because in its essence, what you're doing with an e-commerce shop is you're sending somebody a product. And if that product is the same from every competitor, then you can only differentiate yourself in terms of service and how you're helping people. So that's a thing that you can do over there. And another thing that I see is to really create your own suite of products, your own brand, because then you can take more margin because your competitors can't sell your products, even if you want to.
Just as one there as well, do you have any recommendations for cheaper alternatives to MailChimp?
Cheaper alternative. I use GetResponse, which is actually it's more expensive per month, but you can also do webinars with it and landing pages and these type of things. So I think if you have a combined set of tools, and I think that's the thing you need to look at. What's the combination that you need, and how can you get the cheapest combination over that? And then sometimes MailChimp is the cheapest, but in other combinations, it's not.
Klaviyo is another good one. As I said, it just depends on what you're connecting it to and what you're going to do with it. Like so.
The most important thing is that you have Zapier in place, which is the glue of the internet. That if there's a transaction, that it's automatically sent to other platforms that you're using. So that's definitely a tool that I can highly recommend if you want to scale your business faster, that you have a tool like that in place.
What about marketplaces? Any thoughts on marketplace platforms?
Yeah, I think it's working for a lot of people, but I think you need to be very cautious on the differentiation power that you have over there, because eventually the marketplaces will take over. I'm a big fan of first optimizing your own infrastructure. So you can use a marketplaces to sell your first product, but the key thing is then to get their contact details, so you can then drive them to your own site, so you actually can sell for a higher margin. So a platform can be a good Trojan horse for your first sale, but after that, you should own the customer relationship yourself.
So just personally, we've used up some of the questions there. I'm just wondering, just to kind of to make this more to make this whole presentation down to normal layman's terms, and so people can take something themselves away today. Like, is it kind of like the 80-20 rule, where this is all about putting structure onto your business, focusing on what you have and making yourself the hero and the expert in that? So who is the 20%? What are they buying? Where are they from? And how can I knock that out of the ballpark?
Yeah.
And just focusing on that right now, rather than looking at your business as a massive whole and trying to cover all the different parts at the one time. Would that be right in saying so?
I think what I'm doing always is an aggressive form of that. So I think it's a very known principle that 20% of the inputs drives 80% of the output. So 20% of customers make 80% of your revenue. So what I try to do with my model is to go even deeper. So of those 20%, which 20% is actually over there making the most money? And if we drill that again, which 20% do we have over there? And then you'll see that 0.8% of your customers will make more than 50% of your revenue. So really try to hone in on that, try to figure out who that audience is, and then double down on that demographic, because that's actually one of the most promising and easy ways that you can grow, because these people are already buying from you. They're buying at your highest margin, probably are very loyal. So if you get more of those type of people into your funnels, then there are high chances that your company will grow.
We see that in the physical business, Chris. We can see it quite simply, like, oh, they're a really good customer, and and that kind of thing. Sometimes when it's online, it's hard to visualize and see exactly where you're coming from. So that's a really good tip. Somebody's asking here, has anyone seen predictions of 70% of all e-commerce transactions taking place on marketplaces by 2024? I haven't seen that. You, Chris, anybody?
I'm not the biggest expert on marketplaces, but it's a trend that's going on.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm hearing a lot about social. Social seems to be one that's really placed to take over. I don't know by 2024, but my own research tells me that there's an awful lot of websites, individual websites opening up. But as well, the real key, and that's what we're trying to do, is that marketplace is just easy. You need to think about the psychology of the person that's buying. Think about yourself buying. It's just do I really want? We've all got no time, So that's why people are just go where it's easy. You got to make it very easy for them.
I think what's coming to mind for me is that easy will become expensive and hard will become profitable.
Okay.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So anything anybody else wants to add there? Guys, I think that's a wrap then. I'd like to thank everybody, all our panelists. You guys are really good for supporting us and our members. Thank you very, very much. I'd like to thank everybody also for joining us here today. We will be having more seminars, giving you more value. We'll be putting this up on YouTube and sharing that with you. And thank you for all coming. I hope you'll all stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk to you on ECAI and ClickIrish. Take care, everybody. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.